Good afternoon, everybody. Central Time. I want to say it's 20 to 2. It's November 4th, the day after election, and we're all waiting on pins and needles to get the final tally and see who our next POTUS is going to be. Having said that, I wanted to amend, that's how I am, if you know me by now. I said substance abuse disorder in my last video. It's actually SUD, substance use disorders, and I realized it as soon as it was coming out of my mouth. Okay, and I want to mention one thing prior to getting into my main topic for the day. I don't know if you heard, but I believe it's Oregon that has decriminalized certain drug classes. Okay, um, but that does not apply to the distribution, okay, of you know distribution of drugs, and I think it has to be at a certain amount. So, anyways, the sale and distribution. Okay, what I love about this, and a lot of countries in Europe do this. It's called harm reduction, and what the goal is to facilitate recovery without penalizing. And a lot of people have trouble with that because, they feel it's a drug addiction is a choice and all that. And a lot of criminal activity can, occur because of drug abuse use. So anyways, but the goal in a lot of the countries over there, and I remember when I think it was my bachelor's program, we studied a lot about harm reduction, but they make sure they get clean needles. So, they can go to a certain area and get clean needles if they are going to use. It's kind of like going to get condoms, I guess. It's a little different, but um, and they're going to be offered. They'll only get fined. I guess it's in Oregon. They're only going to get fined a certain amount, like $100, depending on the amount they're caught with. But then they have to go to intervention, drug therapy. So win, win, win. A huge issue, a huge is access to treatment anyways. And it can take people relapse a lot, but that doesn't mean they're not going to recover. Okay. That's part of recovery. That's part of the journey, some more than others, but, unless you have a certain insurance, it's very costly. And the beds that for those that don't usually, they get in there based on a grant, or they're court ordered and, there's a certain amount of a program that pays for that. So, and just there's still got to be availability, and that's our problem. So many get turned away from inpatient because normally what occurs, I'll tell you, normally what occurs, okay, if you are ordered by the court and you test dirty for the certain substances and stuff like that, you're mandated for outpatient, okay, and then if you continue to test dirty, then you're referred for inpatient. Okay. So there's inpatient where you go in and get, detox withdrawal, and you're monitored closely there. And then you're still court ordered to go for a certain amount of outpatient. And they call that intensive outpatient. And you meet so many times a week, and they try to work around you. There's nighttime and mornings dependent, on the facility, the clinic. And, you got so much. And then if you're on your own doing it, like, in other words, you can be court ordered because, your children are in the custody of the state because of neglect or abuse related to drugs, or, or there's been criminal activity other than that, that you've been court ordered to get treatment. Um, it's so exciting though. When you see someone that's in recovery, and their skin starts to glow again, and, they're putting on weight again, and they're all excited they're going to get their kids back or whatever, the situation is. It's like, oh, hope springs eternal. Okay, enough about that. Let's cover that. Um, the only other thing I was going to touch back on about the Chris Watts case that I've been talking about, at least in 2 videos, I watched further Cindy Watts, the whole interview of her, and a gentleman that was reading her body language, commented on this in this video. And that's another thing in counseling. Nonverbal is just as important, to observe as verbal. A lot of people will tell you things not with their words. They tell it nonverbally, and they talk a lot about being closed and like and in Chris Watts' case, he was rocking, and then when he was in his home and he saw on the video that his neighbor had taken where he was actually backing in, to load the bodies. He was like had his hands up here in distress and stuff. It was like a total giveaway, but like anyways, that's an extreme case. People aren't usually that overt, it's more subtle normally, so you got to be really adept, with observing people's body mannerisms and nonverbal cues, which by the way, I'm gonna I've got every time I come up with one topic, I think of another one. Okay. I want to talk about the different modalities of therapy. I want to talk about the ethics. I want to talk about what's today I'm gonna talk about you when you actually go in, and get assessed. And I also there was one other thing, Mary, reel your own self in. That's probably come to me in the next video. Modalities. I think that was. I know there's something else, but it's flying my mind. Okay, so let's get into it. So the thing about Cindy Watts, I was going to tell you that I had observed with the body language issue was that, and also what she said was astounding. It didn't necessarily have to read her. She was basically bashing Shanann, the victim, like in every possible way. Is so hurtful, like they were just not a match, and that should never have happened. Like the wedding, and just like, oh, you had to know her, oh, it was bad, and everybody else is the opposite about her. So it's just like I said, very enmeshed. Have you ever heard of the word enmeshed? It's an unhealthy entanglement, a healthy relationship, unhealthy, I meant to say, unhealthy dynamic between two people. In this case, it is normally parent child. And in this case, yeah, they are very enmeshed. And, and this is interesting because, you know, when Chris asked for what parent, he didn't want her to come, like to the jail, the facility. He wanted the dad to come. So, dad's more low key. So maybe he felt, he tried to spin the story that, uh, let's see, how did it go? That actually that Shanann had killed the babies. And in a rage, he then killed Shanann, which was total bunk. Okay. So, anyways, that's enough of that. I'll probably see something else tonight, y'all. Bear with me. I told you I exhaust the topic. All right. So, okay. A lot of people don't know what to expect when you go into therapy. You think you're just going to sit down and start talking. Okay. Now, a really good, clinic, therapist, okay, will do an assessment. And assessment is a biopsychosocial assessment. In other words, they're going to want to identify your biological issues, physiological, okay, and everyone has their own, like assessment that they write up. There's not like a standard across the board. They're quite similar, but not necessarily standard. And then, so biopsycho. So then, you want to find out, have they had previous treatment? Do they have previous diagnoses? Mental health diagnoses, and when they do the biological, they want to know, like, for instance, do you have because, a lot of times biological conditions can impact mental health and vice versa. Right? So that, that's why it's so important to get the total history. Okay, then the social, okay, they're going to want to identify, what's your support system? Okay, are you working? Are you like going to school? Do you have a degree? Do you not have a degree? Let's see what else. Oh, like, what's your living situation? Are you, could range from homeless to like, I live in some mansion, da da da, or whatever. Who knows? Mental health covers across the board, you know, as you probably well know. They'll identify everything and then they do a workup, and then they'll determine, and they'll initially sign a diagnosis, so that you can go and, start getting treated, and that can change, and determine whether psychotropic drugs are needed, that can work in conjunction with your therapy. Okay, I know where I worked, unless you were there for another reason, we just let you into the med clinic. you know, and that's where you get the psychotropic drugs. A psychiatric nurse, you know, has been trained to prescribe psychotropic drugs, and it's consistently monitored and evaluated and assessed. I mean, this is nothing taken lightly. And of course, there are certain disorders that exasperate people complying, you know. Um, and people call at the last minute and try to get something, so, you know, mental health clinics do not distribute pain medication either. So, and you're not going to get, um, what's the word? I got a brain fart. Oh my God, I can't think. Subutex? No, whatever. It's a drug you take to withdraw. I can't believe I can't remember what it is. Oh well, so it goes. It'll come to me like, hey, Mary, get away from it. You know what's going to happen. Okay, so you come in. And like I said, you're gonna meet with, it might not be the person you get assigned, to counsel you. You come in an assessment. Some people are just trained to do assessments, and that's their expertise, and like I said, they'll take that whole history, okay, and then maybe they'll meet with the head, the operational manager, the supervisor, whatever the case might be over them, and make decisions about, who's going to be assigned to this client, who's the best fit, or if there might be something they need some type of psychological testing that has to be referred out. You see what I'm saying? Um, like that. And you're going to get people, especially in substance abuse clinic treatment, they're going to call and they want something done real fast. They're like, because they want to get, they want to get in trouble with the court, and they're unfortunately, like they could come call and like, I need to get assessed. I've been referred by my probation officer, the court, whoever, um, you know, Department of Children and Family Services, or some my friend, and they'll call them like 2 hours later, like, I haven't gotten called back yet. They're getting panicky because they waited too long. You see, they're given a certain amount of time, and you just get a little savvy about that. Like, I'm going to tell you something. When I encountered someone, I completely suspended judgment. I use discernment. There's a difference, you know? So that I could interact with them in a facilitated manner, and also always with, honoring their dignity. Above all, don't we all want that, y'all? Okay, I'm trying to think if there's anything else about that. Um, I know I've mentioned, like, there's so many disorders, and I know I probably mentioned depression quite a bit, because there's anxiety disorders, there's and you know, there's bipolar, as you well know, and various, chronic depression, acute depression. And I'll get into that a little better. And then of course we have, the type of disorders that cause hallucinations like schizophrenia and stuff. And like I said, there's 2 classes of that. Um, Trying to think. I gotta pull up my DSM. 65, I have to refresh, and you don't remember everything off the top of your head. It's just, tons, because, obviously you have this manual that's super, super thick, and we looked up every disorder imaginable, every situation, because there's also, children, there's a lot of, um, differentiation and criteria for children. So anyways, so we'll get into that. I think that's all. This is going to be a really short video. Okay. I'm going to reach out to somebody. She said maybe I could she wanted me to do a podcast with her. Okay, let's see how that goes. I would love that. So for the rest of the day, just keep watching out for the election results. You know, praying for the best, hoping for the best, doing for the best, hoping we become, all I know is please let's be more united, you know. Roy and I are going to walk the puppy, get out and get our physical. Okay. I'm doing everything, intellectual, physical. I did my praying already. That's my spiritual, because those of you who watch my other, you gotta do all of it. Okay. So that's, physical, intellectual, spiritual. I haven't had my social yet. And, emotional. Okay. And I think hubby and I had a little bit of that today, just talking about us, talking about stepson Toby that we love. Um, I think we hit that mark together. It doesn't always have to be by yourself, you know. And I'm going to look into my mindful journaling again. Get back with that. Get back on track with that. And that's it. Love y'all. Have a great day. Bye bye.